And there we go and go and go, ladies and gentlemen. 8 p.m. October 2nd in Biggity Biggity Bangkok, the City of Angels, or the Venice of the East, as many call it as well. Welcome to the Surrounded by Details podcast with me, Stevo. I am your host and your photographer in need, in case you ever need a photographer. However, before we start, right in the beginning, as always, thank you, Dreamcatcher Hostel Bar and Cafe, for the lovely support. If you want to visit the lovely City of Angels, Bangkok, Thailand, Southeast Asia, then please make sure to stay at the Dreamcatcher Hostel Bar and Cafe. And if you already have a place to sleep, then drop by there anyway, because it is a lovely place with good music and good drinks and even a better green curry. So, Dreamcatcher Hostel Bar and Cafe. Put that down in your notes in case you are traveling, backpacking, or whatever you do. In case you have no plans of traveling, then fuck you. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know where my manners are. It has been a rough day here for me. I had to do a visa extension today. And with that, of course, comes the lovely time at the immigration office here in Bangkok, which is, of course, sarcastic, because nobody really enjoys to spend time at the immigration. However, I got it over with, and I actually got it over with quite quick. But on my way home, something happened, and something happened where I first got really, really angry, and then I had to laugh at myself, because karma is a bitch. It gets you, no matter if it gets you tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, or, as in this case, 3 or 4 years later. Because when I came to Asia, I stayed in a hostel. The Dreamcatcher was not open by then, so I stayed in a different hostel. However, it was raining outside, just like today, because it has been raining all day long here in Bangkok. Still rainy season. And I was on my way to get some food, and there was a big puddle on my way to the local food where I always used to eat. And there was a school kid, not really a kid, teenager, coming at me. And I saw this big puddle, but I also saw the bus coming or approaching behind that teenager. So I said, hey, you go first. And then the bus just drove by through the whole puddle, and all the water just straight on the teenager. And I had a good time. I thought it was funny. Today, unfortunately, the very same thing happened to me. I got caught. So on my way back from the immigration, I got completely wet, and then I had to step into the taxi. And of course, in the taxi, it is always Antarctica mode here in Thailand. No matter where you go into 7-Eleven, the taxi, the bus, or any shop in general, they always have the aircon on such a temperature that just makes you feel you're on a winter vacation. So that is something that you maybe can put on your pro list when you come to Thailand. You can have a winter and a summer vacation at the very same time. Besides that, something I want to mention before I call our guest up today, Janay Harding. Janay! I don't know why I had to say this, but somehow this name makes me think of South Park. Janay! Yeah, I've been working on my website. I'm done with my archiving, with my re-archiving. I rebuilt my archive a little bit, which you need to do as a photographer because you have loads of footage building up. And in order to keep track of everything, you want to make sure that everything is accessible very quickly in case you need it. So yeah, done with that, and next step is to give my website a major update. So at the moment there is not really much to see on my website, but what you can do, and something that I've put online directly, is that we from now on also have the possibility to not only listen to my podcast episodes on the website, which you could do before already, but we, I say we, by we I mean myself and myself. Talking about myself in third person, perhaps, Stevo. However, you can now also download all the audio episodes for free, and not only on iTunes, Podbean, SoundCloud, and Stitcher, but also on my website. And being busy with that makes my office look like shit, which reminds me tomorrow is a day off for me. Not really, because I have to clean up my apartment. Shit needs to get done. And one more thing I want to mention is I also did send out my monthly newsletter this morning, as I always do at the beginning of every month. So in case you want to join, please just type me a message and sign up. That link will later also be on the website, as well as new shirts and many, many other lovely things. So, with that being said, today we're gonna talk to Janay Harding, a female MMA fighter from the Gold Coast of Australia. She is training at Tiger Muay Thai down in Phuket, and if there is a bell ringing in your head when I say Tiger Muay Thai, yes, you are correct. We have a bunch of people or had a bunch of people on the podcast so far. George Hickman, way back in the day. Time for him to come on the show again. He's the main MMA coach, wrestling coach. Alex Shield, who was in the studio also a very long time ago. Need to get him back because he recently fought at the Rock Wars in Pattaya, which surprisingly I haven't really seen any footage, no photos, no videos, so I don't really know if that event was a success or not. I guess I have to find out. But I thought, why always have ugly males on the podcast? Why not bring on a female fighter? Now, no offense to the Honey Badger, Alex Shield, George Hickman, and all the other people at Tiger Muay Thai. I have no idea why I said that. And with that being said, let's just move on to the phone and give Janay Harding a call, see what she is up to. And I already excused myself there in the beginning because it has been a weird day for me. So in case I get weird on the podcast, please, my apologies. But I guess you can just hashtag German that sentence right away. So, Janay Harding, there we go. Give her a call on line number 127. I'm kidding. We only have one line, so I guess that have to do. There we go.
Hello?
Hello.
What's going on?
Not much. What is going on in Phuket?
Sounds good. Is it too loud in here? Because I can move. I'm just in a little random cafe. But...
Is it raining in Phuket?
No, it's not for once. Well, it was like half an hour ago, but not right this second. Thank God.
Yeah, I just told a story there that I got completely caught up in the rain today on my way back from immigration. But yeah, it's still rainy season. I guess that's what we have to deal with here in Southeast Asia. Janay, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and for being up for this little chat. I thought it was a good idea to get a female fighter on from Tiger Muay Thai, because you are probably familiar with the Honey Badger, George Hickman and Alex Shield and all the male faces around at the gym.
Yeah, the whole crew. I've heard of them and hung out with them on a daily basis.
You kind of have to. You forced to.
Yeah. Lots of Americans at Tiger at the moment. So it's a good crew there.
And I start off with a cliche question straight ahead here. My apologies, but is it tough to be a woman in a male-dominated sport the whole time?
At times it can be. Yeah, it can be tough. There's a lot of challenges that you end up having to face that maybe a male fighter in the sport doesn't have to face. But you kind of get used to it and you kind of understand that goes with the game. You come into this kind of sport knowing that it's male dominated and knowing that you're going to have to go through some things to get to the top. But there is also there's a lot of plus sides as well sometimes, so it kind of balances it out at times.
How did you get started with MMA? Because again, it is not really a sport that is advertised in the female world directly, I would say.
Yeah, I originally, like most kids, I started when I was about 10. I started in karate, and I did that for a few years. I achieved my black belt, and I really enjoyed, I think, the individual aspect of the sport. I've tried a lot of sports as a kid, and I kind of gravitated towards martial arts. But when it comes to karate in Australia especially, I felt like it was maybe a little bit too Western for me, and I wanted something that was a little bit more challenging. So, and I think at the maturity level that I was at, I kind of wanted something a little bit different. And at the time, my mum was working around the corner from an MMA gym, and I went down and tried it out, and then I just never left. That was when I was about 15, and once I finished school, I decided that that's what I was going to do, and that's what I was going to try compete in. And it's kind of hard to just train and not get the itch to compete, so I'm glad that I did, and then I've just done it from there.
Mm. And you recently turned 23, so you have been busy fighting for 13 years, correct?
Yeah, I have.
Mm. And what did your parents say when you went into it more seriously, and especially when you went into MMA? Did they support this straight away, or were there any questions about your new passion?
I think my mum would maybe prefer that I do something probably a little bit safer and maybe a little bit less strenuous on my brain, but she's never really going to stop me from doing anything, and she's definitely the kind of person that can't help but support me. So she was 100% behind it. No matter what I did, as long as I back myself, then she's kind of happy and she'll support me either way. So yeah, she kind of has no choice as well. That's the main problem. I think she accepted, but yeah.
Yeah, and if you really think about it, nothing is really safe in this world nowadays. I mean, you could step into the car, and I just read the news a couple of minutes ago. I mean, look at the shooting that is going on in Las Vegas. So it is, everything can be safe or can be unsafe. And it basically depends on how good you are at what you do. MMA can be quite safe as well if you're really, really good at it.
Yeah, if you're stupid about it, then sure, you can put yourself in a lot of risky situations and cause a lot of harm to your body and especially your brain. But if you're smart about it, then you can make the right choices and you'll be okay, and you come out the other end of the sport still intact.
Yeah. How is the MMA scene in Australia? Can you explain that a little bit to me and my audience? Because I've been talking to Reese the Lightning McLaren, who fights for one championship. We had Martin Negin on not long ago, who won the title not long ago. How is the scene growing in Australia? Because it seems to me that Australia is becoming a really, really popular spot for MMA.
Yeah, I think, especially with the likes of like Robert Whittaker and Mark Hunter out of Australia and Taito Ivasa, and a lot of the boys is slowly more and more names from Australia getting into the UFC and getting a little bit more recognition and getting on shows like ONE FC and Bellator and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's been a long time coming, I feel, and it's tried for ages to become a little bit more popular in Australia and try to get the reach out internationally and get recognized. But now only just is sort of getting more and more, and then the more people that are getting into successful shows, the more people are getting involved as well in Australia and thinking, hey, I can make this a career even if I am just still an Australian, even if I am training out of just Australia. I can still make it internationally. So that's exciting, I think, for a lot of people.
I always wonder, what is the mindset exactly? Because as you say, a lot of people think, yeah, I can make a career out of this, but this is not really what, I cannot really believe that this is what people think. People normally get into the sport and say, hey, I want to be a world champ one day, or hey, I want to make loads of money. How did that progress in your head? Can you explain that a little bit more?
I think, like, for me especially, my main thing is that as a female, I was kind of running out of opponents. But I think for males, since there's a little bit more of a population in MMA competitors, then they can make a good record and get a good number of fights and experience behind them, and then that can push them on to good shows. And so I think you just need to, as long as you can see the prospect of it being available to you to make something, make a career out of it, it usually can be. I think with MMA especially, it's really hard to just train MMA and not think, hey, I want to fight, and then it's not really something you can kind of half do, especially when it comes to like weight cutting and all that sort of stuff. It's not something that you can be half in or half out. I think a lot of people either have one amateur fight or two amateur fights, or they go 100% and there's no sort of middle ground.
Yeah, it is. What I mean is, for me, for example, when I decided to start photography, I didn't have the thought that, hey, I'm gonna be rich as a motherfucker one day because I do photography. There was more passion than brain for that when I started. So, what is it that makes mixed martial arts or the fight game so attractive for you that you said, I want to do this no matter what it takes and no matter what kind of struggle I might face?
Yeah, I think not only is it the constant learning and the the constant growth in the way of martial arts and your skill level, but it's, I think, what pushes me continuously, especially when I get to maybe like a dead end or a bit of a brick wall in my learning or in my skill. I look at the impact you can make in MMA, especially in women's MMA. You can change a lot of people's opinions about females in male sports, and you can make a big impact in just the general society views. And I think that in itself gave me a little bit more of an appeal. I felt like that was kind of what I can do to change up the game a little bit, and what I can do to change a lot of people's opinions and a lot of people's mindsets. But as well, I fell in love with the sport, so that just makes it even better, and it's what I love to do on my happy place. So I get to kind of do that on a daily basis, and if I can make a career out of it and make money out of it and be comfortable, then I guess that's just an extra bonus.
Yeah, it is quite surprising how much you actually forget, or how much, how do I say this, hashtag not a native English speaker, but how much common sense you basically lose once you develop a passion for something. It kind of frees up the way to actually approach it 100%, because otherwise you're constantly busy with other thoughts, or what happens if this doesn't really work out and all this kind of stuff. Do you have a plan B, or do you say, no, fuck it, this is how it's gonna be and this is how it's gonna be?
I think within the last year, I kind of just decided I was either going to throw 100% at this and just pretty much gamble all of my cards and put it into MMA, or I needed to stop it completely. Especially after I got knocked out in January, it was always kind of an idea in my mind that I was going to maybe move to Thailand, and it was going to be a good move for me and a good move for my career. But I think that kind of, I got to a crossroads, and I was like, you either have to make the decision right now and you put 100% in and you don't cheat yourself in doing this properly, or you drop it completely. Like you have, I kind of gave myself a ultimatum a little bit, and then I don't really have it's not necessarily a plan B, but I mean, worst case scenario, I go back home and I go to university and I study something that I maybe kind of like, that I don't necessarily have a passion for, but I'm interested in. But I think that's the difference. I have a passion for MMA, and I kind of am interested in some careers, but my number one is MMA, so I might as well put 100% in it.
Yeah, but
I'm
that's
only really like doing myself a disfavor if I don't. So yeah.
Yeah, but that's also an advantage of only being 23, because you are young, you have the whole life in front of you. You can try around a little bit. There's not really a need of being extra careful and start living the hard life straight away. Go out and try a little bit, says the one who only is 32. But that's the feeling that I had, because I quit school when I was 17 and then I went out traveling. And I was like, if worst case scenario, I can always go back home and try something different. And yeah, here I am. So how long have you been in Thailand, and when did you actually move when did you make the move to Thailand?
I've been here for 5 months so far. I moved funnily enough, moved on May 1st. It just kind of happened to be when my last lease on the Gold Coast ended, and then gave me the opportunity to move over and have a new lease over here in Thailand. So that worked out well, and I just worked a little bit extra and prepared after that January flight to move over here, and yeah, I've been here ever since.
How is it to live in Thailand? What are the pros and cons, especially in Phuket, where it's basically very hard to get a sense of the real Thai life, because there's a lot of foreigners around, and there's a lot of gyms around. So how do you experience Thailand? What is your way of experiencing Thailand? Yeah,
definitely. Especially in Phuket, you get so many tourists, especially on Phuket, where Tiger Muay Thai is situated. You don't really see, you don't really have to like learn too much Thai, because you're always kind of conversating with foreigners and meeting people from all over the world. But I do try to go on like little drives and that sort of stuff, and you do get to know a little bit of the culture. And like tomorrow I'm fighting Muay Thai, and that's kind of my tick off the bucket list in Thailand, that I get to experience a Thai fight in Thailand. Obviously, is where it can be as, I guess, traditional as it gets. And then, like I've seen traditional. Like, I don't have any tattoos myself, but I've seen traditional sakyant being done. made a lot of friends with a lot of Thai people over here and a lot of locals. And the good part of that Tiger is that you have a lot of crews there. So I made a lot of friends with them and got to see where they go and the local spots where they get to hang out and all the local markets that isn't kind of bombarded with a lot of foreigners and all that sort of stuff. So I've got to see a lot of the culture, fortunately, because I've done a bit of travel since I've been here as well. So I think every time I come back, I just try to tick something else off where in between training and the busy lifestyle of trying to balance everything with recovery and training. And then, trying to in between get a little bit of Thailand in and out.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful country, so you kind of don't really necessarily get bored. I'm sure you would know.
Do you drive a scooter in Phuket?
Is the what, sorry?
Do you drive a scooter in Phuket?
I, at the moment, have a motorbike.
Nice.
Yes. So I feel like that makes you kind of enjoy Phuket just that little bit more. Usually I do drive a scooter. I have for like the last 4 months, but my partner bought a motorbike when he was over here, and he's just gone back to Scotland for a little bit, so I get it for the next few weeks. So that's a lot of fun to drive around, especially towards the beaches and stuff. Yeah,
Thailand is a lovely place for motorbikes. But here's a question for you, and you don't need to answer it if you don't want. But do you have a driver license?
I do. I have an international driver license. I don't have a motorbike license, but motorbike is 150cc, so I think it comes under the international driver license.
Okay, so it's still a scooter. It's not really a morbike. It's still
it's not big. That's all you really need for Phuket. It's not like I'm going to drive to Chiang Mai anytime soon, but it's still a lot of fun because you obviously have the manual gears and stuff, so you feel a little bit. And it's cafe racer, so you get to sit on it a little bit different than you would on the scooter, but it's still the same size engine as your like average Zoomer or Click, so it's cooler.
I ask because I always see foreigners driving scooters and they don't have driver license, and then they wonder why they crash when they brake in the middle of a turn. So there's a lot of idiots out there, but I assume you're not one of them.
I maybe had a couple of crashes when I first got here, but
what do you mean by couple?
I had one massive one, surprisingly. I was just by myself, but it was when I first got here and I didn't know my way around. Like, I couldn't really remember my bearings. I've been here before, obviously, before I made the move, but I couldn't really remember where we were going. And then to not get lost, I was maybe going a little bit too fast, and I was hitting a corner at high speed, and then I just came off the Zoomer. And I was fighting like 2 weeks later in Hong Kong, and I had all these open wounds. I had my shoulder, my elbow, my knee, and my foot had all open scratches and stuff. And as you know, in Thailand, it's maybe a little bit too hot to have any kind of like grazes, especially when you're training on mats with a lot of other people. So that didn't work out very well for me. It became a massive... I'm lucky enough I didn't break anything or anything, or I didn't involve anyone else in the accident, but that was my big crash, and I think I ticked it off the list, and then touch wood, ever since I haven't had any more accidents or even close, so pretty lucky.
That is something that would grind my gear all the fucking time when I would, if I would be a fighter, because you have to consider so many things that could play into your fighting career, let it be a motorbike crash or even, especially in Thailand, what you eat, because there's loads of food poisoning going around. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with all that? Do you cut that off in your head, or is that something that follows you around?
Yeah, and there's a lot of little things that you kind of have to accustom yourself to the Thai lifestyle, as per se, especially when it comes to like staph infections or the heat or and hydration, all that sort of stuff. You have to change up what you would usually do back in your Western country. But I haven't really had too many difficulties. I'm lucky enough that when I was back in Australia, I worked in a health food shop for over 5 years, so I have a lot of knowledge about kind of just like first aid and supplements and all those sort of little things. So I kind of came over prepared and knowing what I would have to do maybe a little bit differently than I would back home.
Well, I guess you live and you learn, right?
Yeah, definitely, exactly. And the longer you're here, the longer you're like, oh, I make sure I do this instead of this, or I get this water instead of this water, or whatever it is, and you figure it out as we go on. It's kind of like most travel. I guess.
Is there anything particular that you recognize straight away that is what I miss from Australia, the Gold Coast, or are you completely happy where you are at the moment?
I kind of, obviously you miss those little Western things, like, I'm very
food.
happy in Phuket, hence why I've been here so long, but I guess it's just like being able to communicate a little bit easier, and then just being able to get Western food, knowing that it's Western food and knowing that you're going to get what you ordered. I guess that's maybe the main thing. Especially the Gold Coast has a massive food and restaurant kind of culture to it, and cafe culture. And I'm really big on coffee and all that kind of stuff, so I do miss that a little bit, but I guess it's kind of better that I'm away from all the bakery food and sweets and that kind of stuff.
Mentioning,
kind of lucky.
Mentioning coffee there, I unfortunately have to say you are in the worst gym when it comes to coffee. I once had a coffee at Tiger Muay Thai, and let me tell the audience, it is not what you expect it to be. So I hope Tiger Muay Thai, ever since I tried their coffee, I think that was 2 years ago.
And even worse, you say to everyone that there's no good coffee here, and they're like American or from somewhere that doesn't really understand what good coffee is. Like, I think Australia must be quite big on good coffee, especially like Melbourne, Sydney, Gold Coast areas. So I didn't really think it would be, I didn't think I would miss it as much as I do, but I'm lucky enough to have like seeked out by ways of social media some good cafes and find good spots for coffee, but definitely not on the street. It's not my favorite place for it.
Yeah, there's a wonderful app that has rescued my life many times. It's called Around Me.
I have that.
So once you need something, you just type it in the app and it shows you. And then it's basically just experimenting which spot is your favorite. And for me, it's always, when I go somewhere for a longer period of time, I always need that one spot where I know here I can go and here they will know me. Do you consider to maybe go into the coffee scene yourself? What I'm trying to say by that, are you a big chef yourself, or are you more somebody who likes to go out and eat because you don't have the skills in the kitchen like me?
I back in the day used to make coffee, but I kind of can't not be bothered, but I can't really be bothered investing in like doing all the stuff at home. And I've been moving around a little bit, not really that far from the street, but I've moved in and out of the house I'm at now, so I kind of like have tried to keep all my belongings very minimal and then not really try to make it myself. But I love going out and buying a coffee anyway, so I think I'm just a little bit lazy, to be honest.
Being social, it's always good. You mentioned finding friends and this kind of stuff there before, and they say crew love is true love. How difficult is it to be a Tiger Muay Thai fighter? Because on the road where they have all the gyms in Phuket, there are many different gyms, from CrossFit to MMA, and there seems to be a little bit, different crews. You have a top team, you have Tiger Muay Thai, aka is a little bit further away, but there's a bunch of other gyms there as well. Is there a lot of beef going on?
I wouldn't necessarily say beef. Like, I know, especially know that like people from home will come visit and they maybe go to top team or they go to AKA or whatever, and you can kind of, there's a little bit of a division, but it's not necessarily like a beef. I think Tiger of all the gyms is maybe the most social, because they're always about having little events on or like barbecues or whatnot. So I guess, and it's such a big gym with such big facilities, considering we have like the CrossFit fitness area, Muay Thai area, and MMA area, and then the Jiu-Jitsu crew. We have such a big population there, so you kind of, I guess, by choice end up like socializing with just Tiger people anyway. I don't think it's kind of like necessarily on purpose, but last year I funnily enough went to top team for a few weeks, so I do know some people from there, and I've seen them on the street, and everyone's happy enough to socialize. And you see them at all the restaurants that everyone goes to, because everyone goes to the same places to eat and get coffee and breakfast and all that sort of stuff anyway. And like my partner went to Titan as well, and I was there last year, and you know some people from there, and then you meet some people from like Chok Chai, and obviously you can't really have beef with a Muay Thai gym when you're a totally kind of different gym in comparison. But yeah, I think it's okay, and you end up meeting people on the street anyway, so you all end up kind of intertwining either way through whatever social events you kind of get involved in. So it's not too bad. There's no like massive division, which is good.
Yeah, maybe
no like beef or wars, which is good.
Well, not yet. I recently just finished Narcos season 3, so that's how I see Phuket a little bit. It's all these different cartels of
Getting
MMA
some theories,
gyms.
trying to start some beef.
Yeah. I'm asking because I saw on your social media a certain Joey Angelis ask you, couldn't you have worn a Tiger Muay Thai shirt for this podcast episode? So that's why I was wondering. But are you?
I guess the only downside, or not the downside, but the main thing of being a sponsored athlete at Tiger is that they obviously want me to represent them at all opportunities. So
well, that makes completely sense. I would more say that is my incompetence of getting the right information. So, but what made you choose Tiger Muay Thai? Because you said you've been at the top team there before. Why Tiger Muay Thai?
I enjoyed top team, but I guess before I was coming here, I spent a lot of time on social media trying to follow both of the gyms and AKA, of course, as well, to see what kind of people were at the gyms at the time. And I don't know, I didn't really know 100% what one I was going to choose, and I was very on the fence. And then before I came over, I knew a couple of my friends that were in Sydney just happened to be coming over at the same time as me, and they have quite a good relationship with Tiger, so they ended up coming over that same week, and then they obviously ended up going to Tiger. So I was like, oh, maybe I might as well spend it.
Group pressure.
Start there and then see what happens. And I got there, and the crew was quite good, and it was very obviously. We always have so many people in the MMA classes, so you never strap for training partners or anything like that. So yeah, I didn't know. I just kind of got stuck there. I did know. I came once last year. So I did know Joey and a couple of other people from Tiger, but I had only trained there the one time, so I knew how good the facilities were, but I didn't necessarily know that many people there. But I think that was the main thing that drew me towards Tiger, was mainly the facilities and the crew and the people that I knew were already going there.
Yeah. Shout out to Joe Ray on that behalf, by the way, because he's out somewhere in the middle of nowhere in Mongolia at the moment.
In
fighting,
Mongolia, yeah. With the honey badger as well. Then they're just cruising around Mongolia trying to figure out what's what.
Yeah, I guess that can't be boring. If you hang around the honey badger, there's always entertainment, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. How could I leave when I have such entertaining characters around me all the time?
Yeah, so talk me through a typical Janay Harding day. When do you wake up, and what does your day look like?
Well, today, depends what day it is. Obviously, there's a lot of variety in the Tiger Muay Thai timetable, but today, for example, I woke up and it was raining because I live in Phuket, and it's pretty much monsoon season. It's been raining quite a lot recently, so I didn't go for a run, but then I made some breakfast and I headed to there's a combat conditioning class that they offer at Tiger that's specifically targeted towards fighters and doing the strength and conditioning for fighters, so that's always really good. And then I went straight from there to help Sam Baston out with the Western boxing class, just because there's quite a lot of numbers at the moment, so it's always good for him to have an extra hand in helping demonstrate and all that sort of stuff. And I enjoy helping out. And I did a bit of teaching back on the Gold Coast, so I really enjoy like the teaching aspect of martial arts, and you take a lot from it as well. And then I chilled out for a little bit. Obviously got lunch on the street because there's such good restaurants, all accustomed to our kind of diet and what you want to put into your body and the fuel that you need. And then I went and had a Muay Thai private with my main crew, Tukatathong. So that was really good. And then I got told that I was fighting Muay Thai tomorrow night. So I decided to take the rest of the day off.
So explain yourself. Wait a second. You got to know today that you have a Muay Thai fight tomorrow. How does that work?
Yeah, I got called this morning, but I thought I didn't think they were joking, but I just thought that maybe it wasn't going to happen, because the typical kind of thing in Thailand is that things aren't necessarily very organized always.
I'm German. I hear you 100%. I'm super organized. Doesn't work well in Asia as well. For 100%.
Yeah. A few weeks ago, I put my name forward, just saying like, because I have a few things in the pipeline at the moment, and I just know that there's a possibility that I won't have the opportunity to fight Muay Thai soon. And so I was trying to get a Muay Thai fight so I could tick it off my bucket list before I left and before I possibly got signed to some getting stuck into a contract where I couldn't fight Muay Thai. I couldn't do any other combat sports. So I put my name forward and they said maybe I'll fight on the 10th. So I put the 10th in my head and I thought that was good. And then I got told it was going to be the 3rd, which is tomorrow, obviously. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds good. And then on Friday I got told that I wouldn't be fighting. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And then I got all these like different stories about because a lot of the time, and obviously it's the King's anniversary, so they were saying that there won't be any fights of all of October for the King. And I was like, okay, that's fair, so I won't be fighting at all. And then this morning I got called and they were like, oh, you're fighting tomorrow. And I was like, oh, I thought they were kind of like just saying it. And then I got to Tiger, obviously, this morning, and I was like, oh, am I going to be fighting? And then they were like, oh, we're not really sure. And I was like, oh, okay. So I kind of just put it in my head that I wasn't fighting. I just thought maybe it was just like still unorganized and it probably won't go through. And then, and then I got told at like, one, that I definitely am fighting. So I had to learn a quick Y crew and like figure out what I was doing. Like I obviously have a basic background of Muay Thai, but I've always been 100% MMA, so, and if anything, more boxing. But so Muay Thai will be a little bit different, but I see like myself enjoying it either way. It doesn't really matter.
Well, to explain for our audience who are not into Muay Thai or who are not into MMA, the Y Crew is a dance that you do in honor for your coach before the fight, and that is tradition here in Thailand, so you need to do that. A lot of foreigners actually get scared off by that because they think they look ridiculous or whatever, but here it's a really big tradition. So can you tell me a little bit about your moves? Have you practiced some secret moves like moonwalk, windmill, air flare?
Not necessarily. I tried to keep it as basic as I possibly could, so I didn't do anything wrong, and I didn't offend anyone, and I didn't like make a fool of myself. So I just had to have a very, very basic Y crew, just enough to thank my trainers, I guess, and to do the right thing and not just kind of stand in the corner there like a lot of foreigners do when they take up Muay Thai fights in Thailand. But hopefully it's good enough for the crowd tomorrow, and hopefully the locals understand that it's not really my thing. I'm allergic today, so on a day's notice.
Maybe that's your plan B right there. You can walk straight into a dance career. No, you never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
I think I'm lucky enough to have a tiny bit of rhythm in comparison to like some of the people I know, so I hopefully we'll pull it off okay. It's just I might like freeze under the pressure and not want to offend anyone, because obviously there's a lot, especially in Thailand, there's a lot of like do's and don'ts when it comes to female Muay Thai fighters, like nak Muay Yings and like doing like going underneath the ropes without your Moncon and all those sort of things. So I'm just not really nervous for the fight. I'm more nervous that I'm going to do the wrong thing traditionally. Offend anyone.
I think you will be totally fine. But getting a fight on that such notice, especially when it's your first Muay Thai fight, as I understood, what went through your head? I mean, were you excited or were you like, wait a second, I haven't really prepared for that yet?
I was very excited. I've been wanting one since I got here. When I first got here, I think the second day I was here, I was hitting pads and they asked me to fight. And I was like, yeah, sure, that definitely be something I want to do. And they put me on a big poster and stuff, and I drove past myself in Carter on like one of those massive Muay Thai posters with had a belt in between us and all that sort of stuff. And then a couple of days later, I got asked if I wanted to fight more MMA in Hong Kong, and I obviously prioritized MMA, so I couldn't turn down that opportunity. And I wanted to get to Tiger and kind of prove myself as well, and like make good positive moves forward in my career. So I was like, I'll have to prioritize the MMA. So I ended up pulling out of that Muay Thai fight, and ever since I've just struggled to get one. So I guess this morning when I got told, I was like, oh, well, at least I get to experience it, and that would definitely be exciting. And I know a guy, I'm going to see a guy tomorrow that usually does Sakyants, but he does like the drawings as well as Sakyans, not just the tattoos and a lot of the blessings and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to try and make it a bit of an experience and go visit him, and you just gift him some things, and then we can talk. And I think he might maybe have like a mongkong with the Sakyan drawing in the inside of it that he hand makes and stuff like that. So try and make it as much of an experience as I can and get as cultural and traditional as I can, so that I've done it once and I've ticked it off and I did 100%. So see how it goes.
Again, you live and you learn, and hashtag always a student experience can never be wrong. But coming from a karate, hashtag not a native English speaker, my excuse. Coming from a karate direction, how difficult is it to deal with all the different genres of MMA? And is there a genre that you really hate, that you don't really look forward to in the gym, like wrestling or stuff like that? What is it you enjoy most of the new angles that you get to learn, and what is it you hate the most of the new angles you get to learn?
I guess my most preferred discipline is definitely stand-up, any kind of striking. I enjoy the most. It's always obviously been my kind of background. I took a lot of time to get rid of all the bad karate habits and getting used to, maybe, for lack of a better word, a little bit more of an aggressive style and a little bit more of a contact style when it comes to MMA, and just a little bit more realistic style, if anything. And then, so, like, I guess kickboxing would probably be my most valued discipline out of all of them. But then I've never really, like, I guess when I first started jiu-jitsu, I kind of disliked it because I was bad at it. I've never really hated it because I've always been interested in learning, and there's always just like continuously so many things that you can understand, and you get to different like avenues of it, and you're like, oh, that's a whole, like, I'm opening up a door to a whole other world of this side of jiu-jitsu or whatever it is. I guess there's always been that interest and that admiration for just how much there is to know about jiu-jitsu. But that would probably be my least preferred, just because I'm the worst at it. And mainly it's not because I don't like it, but it's because I hate being bad at stuff more than anything, and I'm a little bit too competitive. So,
but that should be a motivation to get better. If you hate to be bad at something, that should be an extra motivation.
Yeah, so I do still stick at it, and especially before I left, I stuck at it as much as I possibly could, because I had a little bit of time there where I didn't have any fights lined up. So I got to do as much as I could. But since I've been here, I've done as much jiu-jitsu as I kind of have wanted to, but maybe not as much as I should have, because of a couple of injuries and some open wounds and like skin infections and stuff like that. I've luckily enough only got staph once, but you know, all those kind of things kind of put you out of things like jiu-jitsu for a little bit too long, which is unfortunate. But we have such a good jiu-jitsu crew at Tiger at the moment, so I kind of feel like I underuse it at times. But
so where are you at your jiu-jitsu career at the moment?
I'm currently just a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. I'll probably be a blue belt for a long time, to be honest, because
come on, where's the spirit, woman? Where's the spirit?
But I don't know. I just enjoy learning it. I'm not really too fixated on the idea of getting my purple or progressing in the way of strikes and all that sort of stuff, but just more getting better and seeing myself get better. It's one of those things where it's very hard to sometimes see your progress at times, because especially if you're constantly rolling with colored belts and constantly rolling with higher level people, we kind of feel like you're just getting smashed all the time. But as long as I can see myself improving, then that's the main thing I want out of it, and that my game from, especially when I first started in MMA, to where it is now is way better, a much better understanding of certain things that the do's and don'ts to transition into MMA and make sure I don't make as many mistakes as I've made in the past in jiu-jitsu on the ground. So. Yeah,
maybe you should visit the Indigo Float Center down the road. Shout out to Joe and all the other lovely people that go there and float, and Steven, of course. But maybe you should just go and float and look within yourself, gather yourself, and then go into the jiu-jitsu class with new spirits and new eagerness to conquer the difficulties that come with jiu-jitsu. But it's definitely interesting. That's something that I got to learn watching MMA, because I've been in it for 2.5 years. And first I was very disappointed whenever the fight went to the ground, because I'm a photographer. That's basically the most boring part of shooting MMA. But once you get the idea of what's actually going on, you start to enjoy it a little bit more. And then, I have the same for me. I get eager to get that shot, even if that's not comparable at all. But I don't do jiu-jitsu. I did jiu-jitsu when I was a little kid. I sucked at it. And with that being said, let's leave jiu-jitsu behind us and let's keep on moving with the next question. Enough of jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
Jesus Christ. So you mentioned that you like stand-up a little bit more, and you also mentioned that you got knocked out in January. If I read Sherdog correctly, January 28th, you had a fight at the Sledgehammer Promotions, and you got KO'd in the first round after 1 minute and 8 seconds. I hope I don't, pick in your wound now, but how was that to get knocked out for the very first time?
It definitely, I'm not going to lie, it definitely wasn't great at the time. I took it to heart, I guess. The best thing is that I have so much respect for the opponent that I fought in January. I fought against Arlene Blanco, and she's been a friend of mine for a very long time. So have a lot of respect for her and understanding her skill level and what she was bringing into that fight. I guess that kind of eased the pain a little bit. She deserved the win, if anything. And her striking on another level. She's got world championships in boxing, and she's had quite a good career in MMA as well, while still maintaining a couple of boxing fights in between her MMA fights. So she's definitely, obviously, someone I've looked up to during my career in MMA. So I guess I couldn't have got knocked out by any better person, at least. But for a very long time, I was very deterred by the fact that my stand-up wasn't where I thought it was, I guess. I maybe didn't come into that fight with the best headspace, which I let myself down with a little bit, but I should have pushed on more. And I knew it was definitely, I'm not saying that it's not a fight that I couldn't have won, because I definitely could have won it. Otherwise I wouldn't have taken it in the first place. But it was, I had a little I had a video of it, and I had it sitting in my phone for maybe 3-4 weeks before I even watched it. I just had a bad kind of vibe about having to watch myself get knocked out, and the idea that it had even happened, and then and I'd never been knocked out as well, so I never really experienced the delayed concussion and all the repercussions that come from getting knocked out. I didn't realize nobody kind of tells you that you end up very deep in your own head after. I not only had I lost, but I got knocked out, and I was very my brain was on fire, so it was just firing at random rates, and I couldn't control the thought processes that I was going through after the fight. So I was very surprised and experienced.
So how long?
Seeing that as a thing.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but how long did it take you to actually deal with the whole thing? You said you had a couple of weeks before you watched the fight, but mentally, how long did it take you to actually sit down and say, okay, I got knocked out, but instead of being here, sitting here and being all angry about it, I need to find something that I can take from this in order to move on. How long did this process take? Because you can tell me what you want. Every fighter has a certain ego.
Yeah, you always go, especially with losses, even if you don't get knocked out, you always go through that kind of depression, that aftermath of where am I going to go next? Or I guess a lot of, when I initially walked out the back, I remember sitting next to a good friend of mine and just saying that I shouldn't be doing this. And I, even thinking back at it now, that the idea that went through my head, but I guess my head wasn't in the right place, and I obviously just got knocked out, so I was very negative. But that was my third loss in a row. I'd lost to Jessie Jess, and then I'd lost a boxing fight, a professional boxing fight, and then I got knocked out. So I guess it being my third loss in a row, I kind of got out the back, and I was just so deep in my own thought and very negative in those thoughts that I was just I need to stop doing this. I don't want to be that person that continuously loses but keeps trying to trying to make a career out of it. There's just a point in your record where you just can't dig your way back up to the top. It's just not going to happen. But I kind of like felt like I needed to stop at that moment, and then I took like obviously the night to sleep on it and then recuperate. And in the morning, I was obviously couldn't think of what else I was going to do other than train on Monday. I mean, I haven't really experienced waking up on Monday and not train for like 7 years, so I didn't really know what else I was going to do on Monday. So I was like, oh, well, I might as well go to training anyway. I went to training and obviously took it light, but after that, I took the week and I tried to not think about it too much, because I thought maybe it was a little bit too soon to be making any rash decisions, and I was maybe a little bit too emotional or whatnot to be making any smart choices. So I took a week to kind of eat and chill out a little bit more than I usually would, and then after that week, I kind of just snapped myself into it, and then instead of kind of thinking about it, I just was like, all right, you need to make a decision. You need to either do something proactively that's going to improve your position right now in your career, or you need to give it up. There's no middle ground. And like I said earlier, I gave myself an ultimatum, and then I kind of started putting things in motion to go to Thailand and figuring out like a better timeline. And it was always an idea, but I hadn't really made any proper decisions or any choices that were set in stone. So then I started doing that. I think maybe another week later, I booked my ticket, my one-way ticket over here, and then I was just like, oh, well, you've booked your ticket now, so you're going to have to start working your ass off and make sure you have enough money to back yourself to get over there. And then it just went from there, and I was lucky enough to pull myself out of it. But I'm sure a lot of people go through that mindset when they experience a loss, especially maybe 1 or 2 losses in a row, that they experience that kind of doubt in whether or not this is what they want to do as a career, and the sacrifices you're making are not necessarily paying off enough.
Yeah. So I have to ask you something, and this is more out of my personal curiosity, because I never know how to react when somebody gets knocked out in the cage, because some of the fighters I make friends with because I work with them, and I don't really know what to say. What is it you don't really want to hear? Because I have to look back at Macau at the beginning of August when I was there for one championship, and Reese, the Lightning McLaren, fought Kevin Bellington from Team Lakai, and he knocked out, and I met him in the elevator the next day, and I have the tendency to overthink certain things when I talk, so I just went through my head, okay, what are you about to say? Because I ended up with him in the elevator alone, and I didn't want to have that awkward silence, so I thought, okay, I'm gonna go with something funny. Reese, better things are about to come, but you ruined my shot. Is that the kind of stuff you want to hear, or what is it you absolutely don't want to hear? Because for me, it seems so tough to meet a fighter that got knocked out, and then, of course, people care about you and they want to tell you that things are going to get better. Is that more annoying, or do you don't care about this?
I guess you kind of have that sensitivity to the fact that people aren't necessarily going to know what to say, and I think a lot of people are maybe a little bit too nervous and kind of say the wrong thing, but not really on purpose, just because they're trying to tiptoe around what happened or whatever, and they're trying to make you feel better, and they have good intentions, but they don't necessarily express it very well. But I guess it's just the main thing of people trying to say that they understand what you're going through, or they say, oh, it'll make you better, or whatever it was, like trying to put a positive spin on it, but in a kind of like aggressive way. It's like, I know that this sucks right now, and I know that I should be grateful for what I get to do. I know there's a lot of positives that come with the negatives, but you can't sit there in front of me and know what I experienced, like, cause when I'm the one who did it or whatever. Does that make sense? Like, if they're trying to say that they know, oh, I got knocked out this time, or whatever it was, it's like, yeah, but I understand that, and I know you're just trying to relate because you have good intentions and you have a good heart behind it, but it's not necessarily going to help me, the fact that you got knocked out as well. It's like now we're both just in like a bit of a middle ground. But I don't mind when I kind of feel bad when I lose as well. You kind of feel like, I know a lot of people are like this, so you kind of feel like you let people down, and that you made people, or you suggested that people come watch you fight, and they've made the effort to maybe buy a ticket or watch the stream or come out to whatever promotion it is and come watch you live, especially when I have my mum in like the second or third row, and her having to watch me do that, it doesn't really sit very well with you afterwards. On top of everything else, you're kind of like, oh, I can't believe I made my mum watch me get knocked out. Like, it must be horrible. Like, it was horrible for me, but at least I didn't have to watch it. Like,
that must feel like I crashed the car. I crashed my dad's car once when I got my driver license. Is that the same kind of feeling that you kind of, I don't want to really go home?
I feel like it will be. Yeah, I definitely feel like it will be the same. You feel bad because you did something that's theirs, but you had total control in the situation, and you're the one who kind of caused it to be. But there's not really much you can do about it either. So I guess in that note, that you don't really have any kind of judgment on what people say. I don't really mind what they say. I'm kind of just like, well, I kind of did it to you anyway. Like, I almost let you down, even though people would say otherwise. They kind of also let you down. So you can kind of say whatever you want because you're involved in it as well if you're emotionally connected to me in some way.
Yeah. Well, it is like everything in life. There is consequences to whatever you do, and I'm pretty sure that the people around you who know that you love what you do are also aware of that there are consequences to, of course, winning, but also to losing, and you have to walk through no matter what. And with that being said, that was a cliche ending to that topic, but it is what it is. It was in January, beginning of 2017. We are getting closer and closer to the end of 2018, so it's time to look forward. And when I look forward, well, I look a little bit backwards on your social media. I saw you were actually, or I don't even know if you were, but did you go to the United States because you had something with the UFC going on? What exactly happened there?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to get the opportunity to, I don't know if you're familiar with the show called the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series. That was on for about 8 weeks. So yeah, they have 5 fights every Tuesday night for 8 weeks, and Dana White goes and watches the fights. It's just an Ultimate Fighter facility there in Las Vegas, and you fight in front of him, and basically at the end of the night, he chooses who he's going to give a contract to. So you can there can either be a night where 5 people leave with a contract, or nobody leaves with a contract. He just kind of decides if it was impressive enough of a performance.
He owns the place. He can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, literally, he just walks around, does whatever. So I was lucky enough to get chosen on that, and then I went out a few weeks earlier to do all my promotional work and all my medicals and stuff, because obviously they set all that up for you. I was the only international contender on the entire series, so I had to get flown out, whereas everyone else was all American based. So I flew to Las Vegas, and I spent it was a very quick trip. I spent 4 days straight just doing going to the UFC Performance Institute and getting to use the facilities there and do all my promotional work. I did photo shoots and interview and some video promo work as well, all at that facility. So I got to enjoy like the makeup artist that does all the other women in the UFC, and I got to hang out with like Cowboy Cerrone was there, and Forrest Griffin showed us around, and we went and sat down in the food court there, and I already know Sean Shelby through my manager, so we went and had lunch with Sean Shelby, and then we got to hang out and see like a whole lot of Team Alpha Male fighters and Megan Olvey and Joseph Benavidez and stuff like that. So it was a really, really awesome experience to be able to go to that, and then we got to go to the Contender Series that was on while I was there. So I got to kind of check out what I would be looking at when I came back to fight.
Yeah.
And then I flew back to Thailand, and unfortunately my visa didn't get put through properly. Oh, it's not that it didn't get put through properly, it just didn't get accepted. The government's quite strict at the moment, and they wanted more information.
Yeah, you can say it. You can say it, Donald Trump. It's okay.
Basically, I spent that whole week cursing Trump, but it's like they needed. It's kind of hard to explain, but I know a lot of people have experienced it for other countries as well. For visas to Spain and stuff like that, you need maybe like more notable people to write, say, letters and stuff like that to explain that you have experience or you're notable or you're like good enough to come into America, basically. And the UFC were just obviously like that seems a hell of a lot of effort just for a not guarantee for me getting the visa. So if they'd gone to all that effort and then I got denied, it would cause a lot of problems later on. So obviously it's easy for them to just replace me in a heartbeat, and that's what happened. But with the basis that they would possibly do an international contender series, I don't know 100% if that's going to go through. But obviously I'm definitely in their radar, and they put all the effort into flying me out, and they treated me so well, and I was so like grateful for the opportunity of getting to hang out and network with the people that I got to network and see the things that I got to do. I mean, they paid for my visa and they paid for all my medicals, my head scan, my blood, my eye test, and all that sort of stuff. So it was a really good experience either way. I took a lot from it, but it's just unfortunate that I didn't get to have the fight.
Now that must be, sorry to interrupt you, but that must be a tougher loss than actually getting knocked out, because you had the opportunity right in front of there, and then it's out of your power, it gets taken away from you. That must be tough to deal with. Yeah,
seriously. It was like, I could see the contract. Like, all I had to do was go there, make weight, and I pretty much would have got a contract in my eyes. That was my next 6 months planned out. I had, obviously I was betting on the money as well, which makes a big difference when you don't work anymore because you just fight professionally, and you live in Thailand. And I had it all kind of sorted, and then to have it just fall through for absolutely no reason or nobody's fault, it was just it was the strangest feeling that it was just through no fault of my own. I couldn't do anything about it. Nobody could do anything about it. It's not like I got injured. It's not like my opponent got injured, or I could just get a replacement or something like that. You just seriously, you're just not fighting black and white. Like, and yeah, it was really disappointing. But and it was even more disappointing that the girl that took the opportunity and took the fight up on a few weeks' notice, she ended up winning by decision and then getting a contract straight away. So I knew that was my contract in a way, and watching it was a little bit bittersweet when I knew that I could have won that fight, and that, like, I had a lot of faith in my abilities, especially against the opponent that I was put up against, and I was just like, yeah, that could have been me, I guess. But you can't spend your life doing the coulda, shoulda. You kind of got to just be positive that everything unfolds how it should, and the journey's just another hiccup in what else is meant to be. And it's not like I'm any less of opportunities. I still have a lot of good things coming through the pipeline, so I'm very positive that it'll all work out. But yeah, it just wasn't meant to be, unfortunately.
Yeah, I often have the tendency to compare artist life and fighter life, even if it's not the same, but somehow it's still the same. It's you got to keep on being on the grind. You got to keep on working on yourself, and whatever happens, happens. Some things are just out of your power. You cannot affect them. And if you start to think about them, if you get that mindset, what could have, would have, I think then you go into a rabbit hole and you eventually get lost. So the best thing I can imagine to do in such a scenario is to just keep on moving, go back to the gym, and have that mindset that you just described. Things will happen and things will go my way. And talking about your way, what is going to happen for you in 2018? I mean, tomorrow you have a Muay Thai fight, but in 2018, what is coming up for you? What are your plans, and where do you see yourself at the very same time as today, but in 1 year?
Well, at the moment, there's not anything set in stone, but there's a lot of things being tossed up into the air. So I think next year will be pretty exciting. I just slowly we'll have a few more things confirmed over the next month or so, and then just and understand how exciting it'll be. But I know that I've got a big promotion knocking at our door at the moment, and we're just kind of trying to finalize all of that sort of stuff. And then so hopefully over the next couple of weeks I can maybe announce it, or have some more things set in stone. And then next year I'll probably set out for some more travel as well. I might relocate again. I'm not too sure, just based on the financial position I'm in at the moment. Obviously in Thailand I'm not necessarily working, so I maybe need to change it up. And the money I was guaranteed for that contender series fight, I'm not getting any more overseas, so I kind of need to just make some decisions in way, but without taking any steps back. So hopefully, I think next year I'll be on a new platform, and I think I'll be definitely in a much better position than I am right now. So I'm just not 100% sure how that'll be, but it should play out. And I'm kind of not really clinging on to any ideas so that I don't necessarily get let down. But I have faith in the fact that it'll be better than where I am today, for sure.
Well, many ways lead to Rome, and no matter what way you will take, we hope that nothing less than the best will happen to you. And no matter what platform you will go to or wherever you end up to, I hope we will get you back on the podcast. Maybe not waiting a year, but maybe we get you back on and tell us a little bit more about your journey and let us be part of your journey, because I think it's very interesting to see, of course, sorry for the cliche once again, not only guys but also ladies taking the path of MMA, and to see how they deal with that. And with that being said, I have one last question. I know I have to ask it because it has been going around in my mind for the whole week, but when you are out and partying and you see guys that get kind of, they irritate you, do you wish they're gonna take you out and that you can kick your ass, or are you more a silent problem solver and rather leave the stage instead of kicking ass?
In what retrospect, sorry? Sorry,
that was more like a fun question. I was, you know, when you're a woman and you go out party, there's always a dude who wants to buy you drinks, and that can be, I guess, pretty annoying. Do you wish, let's go outside, I want to kick your ass, because you have no idea what I can do to you in a bad way, or do you rather leave the stage in a silent way?
Yeah, usually I'm very like standoffish person, so I most of the time kind of try to stay surrounded by people to almost create like a barrier for myself, but a lot of the time people don't really know what they're walking into, or they don't expect it. I try to be nice to everyone, but I just most of the time have a very, apparently, according to my partner, I have a very like resting bitch face, so apparently I'm not very easy to approach. Yeah. And I've noticed that like since being here, a lot of people think that I get approached more than I do, but I don't. I think that's mainly because of the possible vibe that I give off, but unintentionally. But I think just because at the moment I came over here with the intention to just 100% dedicate myself to my career, and I didn't have any, I didn't want to stray from the path, and I didn't want anyone to deter me from where I was going. So over the last few months I've been very like straight down the line. But I guess like I guess confidence is a major thing, because since I'm apparently quite intimidating and I don't get approached that often, when you do, you want someone to be confident, but not in a creepy way, of course. So I think
not in a creepy way.
If anyone needed advice, just be confident, but not in a way that you're going to kind of be out of line and unnecessary, I think.
Well, I like the term resting bitch face. That is something I need to hashtag.
Very good at it if you needed lessons.
Well, Janay, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, and thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. It's 9 o'clock. It's even later at the Gold Coast at the moment, and I hope that everybody who listened appreciated you making the time, because I certainly do. And good luck with your Muay Thai fight tomorrow.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. Hopefully I'll be on there again this time next year, and we can talk about some better and bigger things. Yeah,
and let's not forget, where can people find you in case they want to follow you? Social media, do you have anything you want to share with them?
Luckily, all my social media is just my name, and it's a fairly unique name, so it's just Janay Harding, Janay Harding, and you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. I have a athlete page on Facebook, and then my Instagram is my main use of social media. So follow me on there if you want to watch what's coming up next. Hopefully soon I will be able to announce some big things coming through, and I'll be able to give you guys a fight to watch very soon.
And one last question here before I forget, talking about social media and your name. Where did you get your nickname from?
Oh, my Hollowpoint nickname. It's actually, there's not really a great story to that, and I feel like I'm rip people off when I tell you the story, but it's just, we were just really tossing around a few names, and my screen printer that makes made a lot of my shirts back home on the Gold Coast, he just was throwing around random words that start with H, random nouns that start with H, and then we just kind of ended up on the Hollowpoint. We were like, man, that's pretty perfect, because I'm a very black and gold kind of person, and when it comes to the lethal part of it and the guns, and a lot of my finishes have been from TKOs or KOs, and all my professional wins are from KOs and TKOs. So I was kind of like, that's pretty fitting. So we just went with the Hollowpoint so that we can kind of make out them a little bit more aggressive than I am, I guess.
Well, it suits if you like the stand-up game for sure. Janay Harding, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on. I will leave you to it. Have a great evening, and once again, good luck with your Muay Thai fight tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Bye.
Boom. And there she goes, ladies and gentlemen. That was Janay Harding. What a pleasure to talk to her and to see the journey of a female MMA fighter from the Gold Coast, Australia, here at Tiger Muay Thai in Thailand. I say here, I'm in Bangkok, she is in Phuket, so down south. However, I forgot to mention that she should talk to the owner because they need better coffee. Because then you don't only get the MMA fighters, you also get the non-MMA fighters. Because I know Tiger Muay Thai. They have a chill-out area. You can just watch some, if you're not into training yourself, then you can watch other people training. That's something I like to do. Watch other people work. That's always good. I'm just joking. I'm a workaholic. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to the Surrounded by Details podcast with me, Steve-O. And of course, you can also find me on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, Steve Bonhage, STEVBONHAGE. Please make sure Steve without a E at the end, because my parents can't speak English. True story, it's spelled Steph. And if you want to download the podcast, make sure to go on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or my website, www.stevebonhage.com. Look for the Surrounded by Details podcast, free audio downloads, audio only, but it is for free, so shut the fuck up. And on a side note, we're only recording audio at the moment. So, with that being said, that's it for me. Have a great Monday, have a great week. Life is wonderful, and I bet you are too.